at 5:32. We'll start with any adjustments to the agenda. Okay.
Just a question, is there a particular reason we wanted to do hires and resignations after the executive session? To get rid of all your regular business.
We don't have it.
I don't have that.
So, well, that's.
Thank you for teaching me that.
That's a standing thing to make sure we don't ever miss it.
I appreciate it.
Okay, great. Well, if there's no other adjustments to the agenda, I'll move on to looking for a motion to approve the minutes from Monday, November 3rd.
I'll move. Second.
Great. Is there a motion and a second? Is there any further discussion? Great. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Great. We'll move on to public comments.
We have any public?
All right.
Do we have?
There is, but Keith knows how to turn on his mic.
All right. So if there's no public comment, we'll move on to board comment.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I get agendas for lots of different meetings, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be at those meetings. So the supervision and evaluation for you, am I supposed to be on that meeting?
No, so Christie posts any committee meeting of the full board out.
Okay,
So that's why you're getting those notices, but no, you're not.
okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't blowing up.
Bills, you're right.
I saw that bill was there. I actually read the minutes from them.
And please don't hesitate to just email Christie or I if you have a question like that.
And that's a good,
Please.
Madam Chairman, reminder that all of us have been emailed a questionnaire and our evaluation of the superintendent's performance. And I know some of you are recently here. Doesn't matter, we all need to fill that out. And it's really important to get a real take on how Jamie's done, and I can't speak for the superintendent, but I think he'd appreciate getting as many people, feedback from as many people as possible.
And you do have an executive session as requested by the committee as a board to discuss that tonight in executive session too.
And I do have one other thing. So 8.3, we have board self-evaluation. I messed up and forgot to resend survey, and I resent it today.
Okay.
And I apologize. That was totally my fault. So I'm not sure if we can do the self-evaluation without everyone not doing the evaluation.
No, let's go ahead and move that to our next meeting because we'll want everybody to take the survey and have something to discuss about it.
Yeah, and I don't think, don't feel bad about it, because in our packet tonight is the academic performance for the VCAP going back to last spring. So it's very hard for us to evaluate how we did without having that score, and then we just got the scores in this packet. So the timing of
So it actually works out.
it works out quite well, then
Okay, great.
we shoot for that. Again, we need to all participate in that survey.
Yes, absolutely.
I have a question.
Yes.
Y'all asked that last topic, the survey.
No, well, we're in board comment right now.
Okay.
But this is,
I'm curious because snow's going to touch down tomorrow in the Stockbridge school. We have pretty good canyons, potholes within the parking lot. Is it the town? Again, the town's got to be responsible. Anyway, as a resident, can I poke them?
Feel free to. I think part of it is weather and getting it to set.
Okay,
So I don't know if they missed the window to come back to us,
okay.
but feel free
I'll
to
reach
talk
out.
to Kevin. Maybe you'll understand the answer.
Thank you very much.
I did. I don't disagree with you. It's a little bit, we dodged the street.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
okay. Is there any other board comment? Great. We will move on to the best part of the meeting, our celebration of learning.
So I'd like to introduce folks. I think some people know, but not everybody. This is Ms. Abigail Hoops. She's our kindergarten first grade teacher in Stockbridge. And she comes to us tonight to talk a little bit about Stone Soup, which led up to our school-wide soup luncheon and cooking with things from the garden. And then she has some other great celebrations as well. So Ms. Hoops, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here tonight. And I apologize in advance that some of the words, it's all going to be backwards since I'm showing you on the camera. But I don't think that really matters. I can just read you kind of what happened with this little assignment. So we read the book Stone Soup before we had the big soup luncheon at Stockbridge, where every person in the school, every student contributed to making soup. And a wonderful story that's kind of silly. I don't know if anyone knows the Stone Soup story about these soldiers that kind of trick this village into thinking they could make soup out of stones, but then they get everyone to put in ingredients. And it's a really sweet read aloud, and it's funny and engaging. And so I had the students in my class basically make their own soup. And it was very interesting to see because we had the ingredients and the directions kind of laid out on the paper. Oh, you can kind of, hold on, my screen's getting blurry. Let me see if I can fix that.
Is it handwritten by the students?
It is handwritten by them.
Yeah, every once in a while.
It is completely handwritten by them. I gave them a totally blank kind of slate for them to write ingredients and their own directions for making the soup. And I picked a couple that I thought were really special to share with you, kind of exemplar work. And that's something that I've talked to the students about. And it kind of motivates them to work harder on what they're doing so they can kind of be like, oh, I'm the example. I did almost, a really amazing job, so amazing that I could be shown to the class. And so I wanted to share with you some exemplars that I really enjoyed. This is from a student in Stockbridge that wrote, the ingredients are M&Ms, lollipops, Skittles, and cake for their soup. And the directions were get the ingredients, start stirring, serve soup. And it was spelled, a big thing that I'm trying to get the students to do is because is spell what they know, because they work so hard on letter sounds and they know their letter sounds really well and they're reading really well. And then having them get the confidence to really sound out and spell words with writing, because even in the first grade spelling lesson, they're spelling the words, but then when they're actually doing the writing, it takes a lot to kind of, go word by word and figure out what sounds are in that word. And another one that I wanted to share, the ingredients were chicken, turkey, carrots, pumpkins, corns, leaves, and the directions were get the ingredients, mix, put the ingredients in, taste, and then eat. And then there's some sweet drawings of the soup on the bottom in the little pot. I think it's really awesome. That's a big thing that we've been working on in K1 is just writing and using our imaginations. And like I said, just trying to spell. And it takes a lot to decipher some of the words, but it's pretty amazing just what they can come up with. Another student wrote carrots, chicken broth, rocks, pumpkins, and he said, turn on the stove, put the ingredients in, I think he said, and then rock mix. So that was a kindergartner. And then this was one more. Carrots, chicken broth, and lettuce. Turn on the stove. And then put the ingredients in, add the chicken and the chicken broth. That was all. So seeing these were really, oh, and then one more, I have one more here. The ingredients were salad, carrots, noodles, rice, stones, deer, so like deer meat, and chicken. And the directions were spoons, cups, fork, knife, cups. So that was pretty great to just see, based on, reading the whole story, how the soup was made. That's kind of what they came up with on their own. And I had them also respond, I did or did not like the soup, and I had them write why. And some of them said, I did not like the soup because of the onion and the squash. I helped by mixing the soup. And then, but then I had some that say, I did like the soup. I helped by pouring the broth. And I did not like the soup because the squash tastes like cinnamon. And then I helped stir the soup. And then I said, I did not like the soup because I do not like onions. I helped by blending. And I did not like the soup because I didn't like the squash. I helped by cutting the onions. And so there's more of that. I was surprised that many of them chose onions and squash as the ingredients that they did not like. And
ingredients.
And after just one more, two things I just wanted to share with you. As we kind of closed out over the Thanksgiving break, and we'll get into some different writing towards the upcoming break. We wrote about, we went on a field trip to Vins, and so we wrote about what we liked, and we're working on writing complete sentences and really putting details in our drawings, because many of them will come up to me and say, I'm done, and it's just pencil and stick figures, and we're like, okay, but there was more, there was a lot more that happened. And so talking to them about details and putting in those, actual things that we're seeing and using the right colors. And I thought this was really sweet. One of my students wrote, I like the turkey vulture, and he drew a great picture of the turkey vulture with its little gobble in the little Vins spot. I thought that was really awesome. And so I'm glad that they're really thinking about what they're drawing, and that was really a reflection, because they all kind of turned in their pages and it was all just pencil, and I was like, well, there was so much more than that. And here was another one, a revised at Vins. I saw birds, and so he drew a little picture of a bird in the pen, and there was a lot, but I know there's a limited time. And we also wrote before the break, before Thanksgiving, about how food, something I incorporate in the classroom is we talk a lot about nature, and the World Wildlife Fund. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with, but they have like a wild classroom email thread that they kind of share resources with. And I really liked this one. It was like a little postcard that said, food should never be trash. And so I had them draw a picture and write what they would think that someone would do to help food not going in the garbage. And I had a student write and draw about composting, and that's exactly what I was kind of hoping for, just a little picture. And this was kind of a quick assignment, but you can't really see, it's in very thin pencil, but they also had to write what school they wrote, so I had them abbreviate SCS, which was really sweet. And then here's another compost, which was hard for them to spell, but they got it, so I was very impressed with that. And just one more thing, we wrote a little bit about fall, and we also wrote about, we did some predicting, because we've had an apple rotting in our classroom, and we've been watching to see how many days it'll take for the apple to rot. We did it with a pumpkin, and the pumpkin is already rotted, but the apple's still going. And so we had a lot of writing I predict the apple will rot in X amount of days, and some of them said 50 days, 30 days, and it is still not rotten. So here's just a little picture and a little bit of the writing. But I'm excited for them to keep growing. That's one of my biggest goals this year, is to do more writing and do lots of sentence work and just imagination and working on those drawings.
That all looks so wonderful. It brings a smile to my face. On the fact that this is kindergarten and first grade,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to write the word predict.
Mm-hmm.
Really
I mean,
impressive.
just even trying to, and they did a very good job with that.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, it's awesome to see what they can do, and giving them the opportunity and just writing about things that we're doing in the classroom that is exciting. It's been really great, and I'm hoping to do a lot more creative writing with them, like the Stone Soup, as we go along, as long as I can connect it to what we're doing, and eventually getting into story writing. That'll be really exciting for them. I think they're pretty excited, even though it can feel really hard, I think, in the moment to practice that spelling and the writing piece. But the more that we do it, I find the more that they're excited to do it.
Absolutely.
But you gave context to the spelling. They're doing it for a reason, so it makes it more relevant. It's really great.
Yeah, and it's funny because some of them will be like, oh, how do I spell this word? Or I don't know how to spell this. I'm like, hold on. We do letter sounds and you spell all the time. Let's just go letter by letter. And then they do it just with a little bit of encouragement. I feel like I don't have to really try that hard to get them to do what they know how to do, which is exciting for me as a teacher. So thank you all so much.
Thank you very, very much. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I'm biased. Thank you for all the labor and all the work you're doing. We're seeing the fruit at home with Owen. He loves coming to your class every day, talking about you in Thanksgiving break. Thank you for all you're doing. You're making such a wonderful impact in connection with those kids. And it's great to see, pen to paper, pencil to paper, see them writing sentences. It's wonderful. Thank you for everything.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a joy. I enjoy it so much, and we're such a special group and community. I think the closeness makes it a lot more fun in that way. So thank you so much for making it feel comfortable for me to present here as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love that you are doing compost right in your classroom. That's pretty cool. And doing those scientific observations, because that's really what it is. So that's great. Thank you very much.
Yes, I hope eventually that a goal of mine would be to work with farm to school parents to maybe make our own compost soil so the kids can really see it happen. Maybe eventually that would be a goal.
Excellent. We definitely have a group that is interested, so to help support that type of lessons. So excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful night. I do have some errands I have to get back to and some things for tomorrow. But thank you so much, and I hope to see some of you very soon.
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. That was wonderful. All right, we'll move on to the reports to the board, the superintendent's report.
So you have my report. I'm pleased to let you know that the full board did adopt a revised strategic plan. So we're working on final details around that, and we'll be getting out to the printers and shared out to the greater public. And there was a revised vision statement that I think better captures the work that we're doing in regards to the SU. Otherwise I gave you a bunch of updates of some upcoming events around Act 73. That's a discussion item. I'll talk about Act 73 under your board development and where we're at. Lindy gave you a good breakdown in regards to where you're currently at in regards to grade configurations and class sizes within her report. I included in my report just to remind you what the minimum class size averages need to be. We're working hard as we're going through the budgeting process to create a plan to try to get us in compliance. As configured here in Rochester-Stockbridge, we have some multi-age classrooms in Stockbridge already implemented, also in Rochester. In Stockbridge, you would be in compliance in your K1. Your 2-3 would be close. The issue we have is in the upper grades. Right now, we're implementing a 4, 5, 6. As those grades push through in Stockbridge, in the multi-age, you can only have 2 grades in order to be in compliance with class size minimums. You can't have a 3-grade cohort. So that 4, 5, 6 will no longer be permitted. And so that's just something we need to think about as we're looking to address class size minimums. I think it's going to take real leadership part on behalf of the board and administration to create a strategic plan of how to get in compliance as best we can moving forward. The other thing I'd let you know is that the December 1 tax letter came out today. The governor put out a press release indicating that taxes on average across the state will go up 12% is what they're predicting out of the tax department. It's very interesting that the December 1 tax letter then also provides for an increased yield number. And remember, when the yield goes up, taxes actually go down. So you may say, well, how are taxes going to go up by 12%? The yield went up. You look at the non-homestead rate, that's not the case. They're projecting a higher increase for the non-homestead rate. They also dropped the income yield, which is going to impact some folks in that tax letter. Lots is going to be forthcoming with this yield number. One of the things that I'm a bit concerned about with that yield is people start to see their equalized tax rate and homestead rates. It may not look like as bad as one would have thought due to what the governor provided to the ed fund as one-time money. Remember, about 140 million. That there's some assumptions that spending would hold with what they're projecting and or possibly increase. That would really not be good for our school system and rural schools politically, because I think that would be held against us. We need to keep spending in check as best as possible. And also that possibly shows the sign that there is a plan to once again find some one-time funds to help the ed fund out. And that could be why they're projecting an increase yield number. We don't know that, only the tax department knows what that foresight is and how they plan to attack that. We will utilize that yield number in your January budget, though, when you start to see where we're at tax rate wise, when you get your entire completed tax budget. The good news is, and we'll go over your budget tonight, is that we're looking at about 2 cents of an increase in regards to what we're projecting for staffing, and Lindy will walk you through that, or I'll be here too if I'm not still with Granville Hancock in regards to staffing. Otherwise, we're really ramping up for December 17th with Senate Education. I put out another letter letting the public know that we are hosting this meeting. It is a meeting of Senate Ed. There are some folks that have shared, rightfully so, that they're frustrated when the public comment time is. I don't have any say over that. I'm happy that they chose us to be able to host them. But in regards to those types of logistics or what they were looking for and where they wanted it, that was at the leisure of Senate Ed. So I've tried to correct that for folks so that they're not necessarily that frustrated should be certainly addressed, that there ought to be a way to comment virtually. I agree with that. I think it was the hope of Senate Ed to allow for that, frankly. And the Office of Administration wasn't able to pull that off for them. And so folks can provide written testimony, which we've put a press release out. And also I'll continue to publicize in written communication and also is going to go into op-ed that I'll be sending out to the local papers. So the hope is the press release will go out this Thursday in the Herald and the Valley News. Hopefully we'll get coverage, and then an op-ed will go out the following week leading up to the 17th. I do ask, and I put in my report, that you just talk to your neighbors or share the flyer as much as you can on Front Porch Forum and the circles that you have. And hopefully we'll get a really good turnout. You know, I think, and I'll go into this more under 8.1, in order to, you know, continue to see the trajectory of possibly preserving our local districts, it's going to come down to public comment. In order to make that happen, because the governor is indicating he has the political will to push forward with redistricting the state. And my sense is, and I put this in the report, and I believe this will happen, is that we will see the 5-district map reintroduced at the start of the session. And like I said, we can talk more about that under Act 73 and why I think that is, but there's all signals, at least from the Agency of Ed and the administration, that's the direction they're planning.
Right.
So not to be, you know, too uplifting, but I think it's important that, because here's the thing, right? And I believe that this is also, you know, good chess in regards to political maneuvers. I think a lot of people thought the task force report meant the maps were done. And I think it's really hard to weed through the press to realize that was just an advisory group. It's just a report. It does not mean the legislature and administration can't move forward on that. And it appears that within Democratic leadership in the House and Senate, they plan to once again work with the governor to try to produce a map.
It's hard for me to believe, I've been wrong. I remember in Massachusetts, the governor, were having financial difficulties, so the governor decided, okay, I'm not going to give the normal road assistance to every city in town. That's worth just a huge amount of money, so the communities like Stockbridge can pave their roads and maintain them. I said, that's never going to make it in the legislature. Never, because it's so popular. Well, it did. So I'm wrong, but it's hard for me to believe the governor is going to march down and say, maps, close all these schools when schools are popular, and this task force process that they've gone through and the listening that they've done very diligently shows absolutely the reverse. So it's hard for me to believe people are going to be protesting to close schools because that's what this map of the governor's leads to. So I'd like to think that at the end of the day, the legislature is going to decide that there's better ways to improve educational performance and more efficiency in our school system. Question about on the 17th. We're going to be there at 2:30 to 4. That's the
2:30 to 4:30 is public comment.
Now, is the audience going to have an opportunity to hear from you on some of the leadership, local leadership, on what needs to be done and why? Or is that going to all happen before the 2.5, and they're basically going to be sitting there saying, okay, who wants to speak?
I literally have a 15-minute time slot with that to wrap up the day from 2:15 to 2:30. Or sorry, from 1:45 to 2. They're on break from 2 to 2:30.
And then it's a public, because it just seems to me the public there would be helpful to hear from you in person. Not everybody sitting in the bleachers has that.
Well, I'll have the opportunity to give comment like everybody else.
So if they're on break from 2 to 2:30, that would be an opportunity for you to address the public?
Possibly if we haven't run over. The information I've had is that example, Woodstock hosted one that they ran over. So the time is very tight in comparison to what they're after all day, but possibly they would also, again, it's their meeting, have to permit me to do.
Okay, if their meeting doesn't start at 2:30, then their meeting starts.
It's all day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if maybe
Yeah.
there would be like
Yeah,
a,
no, it's their agenda. It's posted. It starts at 9:30 and goes.
Okay. so that would be an opportunity.
The other thing is a question, Vermont, like many states, has a different tax rate for property owners that don't live in the state, with property owners that do. For all people that live here, and we get taxed based on the formulas, everything else like that. And it struck me that a number of states tax the non-residential property at a higher rate than those people that live in the state. And it seemed to be something that we were doing for a while when I first moved up here. And then there were some issues whether that was truly constitutional, so that there's a sensitivity of doing that. And I asked Jamie, is there a constitutional legal reason why the non-residential tax rate has to be lower than the general tax rate, or is it basically a policy decision by the legislature?
It's a policy decision. by the
So
legislature.
we do have that option.
Absolutely. And this tax letter indicates, just like last year, if you look last year, taxes did go up more on non-homestead rates for the first time in quite some time. This tax letter is indicating that as well, and the governor is very careful with with the words he's choosing. He says that all Vermonters that own property, not homesteaders, all Vermonters that own property, that means non-homesteaders as well, on average will go up 12%. You look at the letter, the non-homestead rate on average will go up more than the homestead rate based on that yield number they're providing.
That gives us some real flexibility
But
there.
that language is being chosen for a reason. He's not saying that. But that's what the letter indicates.
Well, that's hard.
But again, right, that will be set by, at the end of the day, House Ways and Means.
Is there any other questions or comments on the superintendent's report?
Oh, I have one question.
Yeah.
Jamie, so the enrollment numbers, it can't be like averaged, like the average numbers for the school come out to, it has to be per grade.
Well, the weights are different per grade, and so what you would do is they will take those cohorts that you have, and they will average them over 3 years.
Average over 3 years?
Yeah, but it's still like, we don't get, it's by class, so like how you have multi-age classes that's the number they'll use. We don't get to say, we have 4 classes spread, they're gonna look at the actual assignment to the cohort. Now, one of the things that it's not clear in the bill, and that's why I've asked to join this working committee, is how they're gonna compute that data, whether it's average daily membership or enrollment. We will have a major issue as a district if it's average daily membership, because you have 20-some Granville Hancock kids enrolled in Rochester that are helping with these class size numbers. If it's not enrollment, we have a major problem as a district.
And so the grade minimums is in law, it's not part of,
Part of Act
This-
73.
okay,
It's in law. It starts next year.
How does it phase in?
It starts next year. 3-year average starting next year.
Starting.
And after that, the secretary has the ability to request to the state board that a school be closed.
And you're saying enrollment helps us, this district? if it was-
We need that number to be based on enrollment. We need the tuitioning students to count toward our class size minimums. If they don't, we have a major problem. We wouldn't be able to operate 2 schools in Meadville.
I'm sure we'd be able to operate one, so.
Well,
It'd be
with
close.
multi-ages.
It'd be close.
It'd be close.
It would be,
But, we're going to struggle to operate a high school in the SU and provide high-quality programming into the 18. We have this issue across the SU.
All right, is there any more questions for the superintendent in this report?
If it's not enrollment, right? Are you following what I'm saying? Because we have a lot of choice districts around that choose to send kids to places. And so I use the high school as the same example as you. I've got students, 80, choosing to come to the middle high school at White River Unified District. Those 80 kids don't count. They're not going to be.
And they don't count if they go by average daily membership?
Correct.
Okay.
If the average daily membership stays with the home district.
Ah, okay.
That's-
They just haven't clarified it. That's why there's a working group. So I want to get on that to be really clear. One, that they understand the difference of how they calculate that when they make
Yeah.
recommendations.
And how can they not?
And
It's
then
not
it
high
really
school,
needs
but
to
they
be
got,
an enrollment.
Especially since they already closed so many schools.
hey, how can all the kids not count anywhere?
Hmm.
That wouldn't make any sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
I won't stop them.
I was gonna say, I don't think common sense necessarily is what they're after. I mean,
Can we quote you on that?
the agency is after regional high schools. And centralized middle schools and, you know,
In a Florida model.
and some type of element.
Right.
So they're gonna get to make the recommendation, so that's why it's important, hopefully, that we get other voices on the workforce to help, workforce team to help them understand what that actually means.
Well, I have more questions, but I guess we'll discuss it at.
73, and
Yeah.
I'll come to Gia. Thanks, guys,
Yeah.
I'll be back.
All right. 7.2.
So I have two reports for you tonight. I have my monthly principals report. It's hard to believe November was a short month because it feels like we did a lot, and we did. And so some things I want to highlight is one, we just finished our first trimester. So report cards will go home this Thursday. We are using our new system, Alma, which small blips with any new system, but not anything major that's going to prevent any of that from happening. Folks have done a great job learning the new system, quite frankly. It's a little more user-friendly is the other answer behind that. The couple other things that I wanted to highlight is Miss Jess, our preschool teacher in Stockbridge, was able to secure a grant that allowed the Eco Museum's Traveling STEM Festival to come to us. So, oh my goodness, when was it? The 13th of November, Rochester came over to Stockbridge and the museum came to Stockbridge and set up different interactive groups. And so they were able to explore museum exhibits, and then there were like facilitated museum exhibits too, where the kids got to build Lego, I'd call them Lego race cars, but there was like a gravity component to it and race those. They had a rigamajig, where they were building like bigger structures together. And then some of the independent ones were like the wind wall, where you put the ball in, and based on the wind direction, it changes which tube it comes out. I'd never been to the museum, so this was just as fascinating to me as it was to the kids. Kids could get on the bike generator and try and get like the big floppy thing to blow up. They did circuit blocks and spin chairs. And then they had the opportunity, if they weren't in the museum, in the multi-purpose room, then they were either in outdoor ed as a cohort, or they were having like a PE thing. And I will share that one comment was, it was very awesome to be in a larger group and like play different games or do different activities with different people. So like so we broke up into cohorts of preschool, kindergarten, first grade was one group. Second and third was another group, and fourth, fifth, and sixth was another group. So at one point there were playing capture the flag. There were over 40 kids. And that's like, that's all of Stockbridge almost altogether, right? So they really enjoyed that. I can't take any credit other than I signed the bus form for that to say absolutely, but I felt like that was a huge thing. And just an awesome program that who knew that it's not very common, you get things from Burlington to come
Yeah.
to us. So that was pretty exciting. We also had our harvest feasts put on by our food service staff, and the kids helped cook as well. the most popular dessert was Oreo pie. And everybody learned how to make mashed potatoes, which is very exciting, I guess. And then right before vacation, 4th and 5th grade students from Stockbridge came over to Rochester, part of one of the assessment performance tasks in our new English language.
I forgot we pushed our meeting.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know.
Remember, it used to be we
I
started
was
at
like, oh,
6.
they changed theirs.
That's me getting in the habit, I only have a half hour.
The performance task for our new English language arts program for that age group, after reading the poetry book, Love That Dog, is for them to write their own poetry and then share it. So we had a poetry jam where the kids, all the 4th and 5th graders were together, and they all, every single one of them read their own poem out loud.
Oh, wow. That's
To the
impressive.
whole group, and then they broke up into small groups and wrote their own poems together about the seasons. So it was very cool experience. And the last thing I'll share is we've always, not always, but since COVID, we've done food boxes going into the December vacation. We were able to utilize some grant funding, and we were able to send 72 households home with food boxes for Thanksgiving.
That's great.
So, any questions about that report? And then I'll try and,
There's a lot that you guys did.
when I started to write it, I was like, okay, there's a lot more than I thought. And jammed really into like a 1 week text. And
Yeah.
And the Stockbridge trustees still, I know back in the day, we called it a principal's fund. That you had walk around money to do what you needed to do.
Yeah.
Is that still available, or I thought we also helped fund or did fund the backpack projects and all that. Is that still an option, and you got the grant to offset that, or not have to ask the trustees, or is there a question mark of trustee support then?
No, there's no question mark of trustee
Good.
support. So there was, their same contribution of 15,000 for the year has come in.
No, but I'm talking about beyond that.
That is a little different.
That's what,
That is different than what it was previously.
And you still haven't found a teacher.
Still have not found a teacher.
How are they, temporary teachers doing?
They are amazing people.
Good.
Thank goodness.
They are licensed, they're not
They're-
temporary.
Right. They're
I just
all
wanna
licensed.
Okay,
Yeah, I want to clarify that.
Yeah,
for
please.
The
Thank you.
board and the public, they are all licensed teachers, we're
Right. That are.
5, 6. It's just we had to change their assignments for them to do.
Okay.
They're not like temp teachers, they are licensed.
And they're all fully licensed. There's no provisional licenses. Robin experiences our 6th grade. She comes and volunteers, which is great.
It's wonderful.
Thank you, Robin.
Yeah, it's
Well,
super.
I haven't done much because I'm just trying to get the kids on the freeway.
Don't let them fool you. They're not afraid.
I understand, I've seen that cohort.
But it's a good thing that you have some power over them.
Excellent. Does anybody have any more questions or comments on Lindy's principal's report? Okay, we'll move on to the
So it's not VTCAP.
VTCAP.
So there's a lot in here.
All
Is what
right.
I'm gonna start with. Okay, so the first page is broken down by goal, and we're looking at English language arts. And it's goal 1 is that the English language arts average scale score exceeds the proficient benchmark in each grade by 2025. So the blue star, okay, is the result from last school year. Okay. This current 6th graders are that 5th grade, just to like help get your brain in the right spot. The magical proficiency skilled score is 1750. So as you can see, we did have one cohort exceed that proficiency. And then over the last 3 years, if you look at, there's a light blue, I would call it a Carolina blue, which is 2023 results. And then there's like a navy blue 2024. You will, if you kind of follow those trends, you will see that in grades 4 through 6, that we achieved goal 1 at least once over the last 3 years. So what that means is some cohorts are achieving it, right? And others are closer. I do find it's rare as an average that 3rd grade meets or exceeds like right off the bat because it is their first time taking the test. But our cohorts have been very close, which is great. I'm just gonna leave that. I think when we get to some of the other pages, it will make more sense.
So,
Yeah.
So like looking at the 3rd grade Carolina blue,
Yeah,
that is then the 4th grade darker blue. Is that correct? Is those in the same cohort?
sorry. Okay, right, let's follow the group all the way through.
Yeah.
That makes
Thank
sense.
you. That
Okay.
makes sense to
But
me.
this is only the 3rd year that we've been using this test, right? So you're not going to, see,
Right.
like, you're not gonna see what the 6th grade did when they were in 3rd grade, okay? So if we look at the 3rd grade, which is now the current 5th grade,
Okay.
sorry, which is the current 6th grade.
Yeah.
I'm a couple years back here, right? When they were 3rd graders, their average scaled score in English language arts was just over 1675. Do you see that light blue?
The Carolina blue.
Yeah, the Carolina blue. Then when we follow them to 4th grade, the current 6th graders, okay, they achieved, they're now that dark blue,
Mhm.
okay, and they achieved right under 1725.
Mhm.
Okay, and then when they were 5th graders, they're that 719 number that you can't, the star is behind them. They're right around the same. And now they are our 6th graders, so they haven't taken the 6th grade test.
Yeah.
That help?
Yes, thank you.
And you're talking about 11 kids, so each one counts for like 9.5%.
Exactly. So it is important to understand, which is why when we get to some of the back pages, which talk about the percentage of cohort who actually like met or exceeded the standard, that it can take only 1 or 2 kids to do extremely low, and that could pull it down on the scale score.
And vice versa.
And vice versa, exactly.
Well, and
Exactly. And I use them as an example because we did just talk about them last month with
Yep.
their track my progress data that we put some more interventions in place for that.
Okay.
Okay. Is that helpful to go that way to like track a group, so to speak? We go to the next page. These are math scores, so it's on the back. Make sure you flip over. All right. So again, 1750 is that magical proficiency scaled score. Okay. So you will see that. I'm just trying to get my barriers here, okay, that if we follow that, what's now our 6th grade group through again, okay, you will see when they were 3rd graders, they scored right around 1725 as a scaled score. When they were 4th graders, it dropped a little bit. Now they're that darker blue. And then as 5th graders, they scored at 16. If you look at last year's grade 3 and grade 4, like those averages, and again, I think when we flip to like the percentage of kids who met and exceeded, you will see that that is pretty close to what our track might product. Like you're gonna see some parallels from last month to this.
Your third and fourth grade outpaced the state average scale score, you know. And our upper grades didn't perform as well as compared to the state. Because the 2025 state average is the green triangle. So I like to look at the green triangle and see where your star
Like
is.
where we are in comparison to the rest.
So what's the,
The 1750
Yeah,
is the
thank you.
cut score for proficiency.
okay,
So within those averages, you had some kids hit that 1750, you had some kids fall under that 1750, because some kids were proficient. If your entire cohort was over 1750, you'd have like 100% close, 90 to 100% proficient if you're over that cut score. And so, as a state, in regards to mathematics, we have been struggling mightily as compared to the cut score they've set on this. And as a district, there's some good things happening in that fourth grade. I'm sure part of that is, it's a high achieving cohort, but there's something for us to be monitoring there, right? In regards to why, to get some good answers there, because they're outpacing the state from a 1706 to a 1735, that's pretty good.
Mhm.
So that's one of the ways I like to look at these graphs is where are we at versus where was the state average? Knowing that your cohorts are incredibly small and a couple students, just like your average for proficiency, percentage proficiency, a few of your students will change these cut scores a lot more, right? If there's 40 kids with those scale scores averaging in, you wouldn't see such a big swing as we do with the smaller cohorts.
And any child with even this severe learning disability is taking this test, so it's a.
Well, yeah, so let's say, you have a student who gets 1775, which I'm sure you had some, and you have a student who's getting, 1675 or lower, that gets averaged within that scale score for your cohort.
But they're doing the best they can.
Of course they are.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's sometimes what you have to do is look at, is that kid progressing in their world? Where they're at.
The other thing that I will share that I think is important to note is last year, the state moved the state testing window to earlier to mid-March. And I think in English language arts, you can do that, right? Because it's about your ability to read, comprehend. That is pretty consistent. There's still a lot of content that we cover from mid-March all the way through June, almost a third of the year, basically. If you think about it, our second trimester ends at the beginning of this testing. We still have a full trimester left in instruction. If we got to see questions by question results, I would wonder, I don't have the answer because you don't get to see it that way, but I would wonder what was content that was covered later down the road. So I don't always think that has a large impact on English language arts. I do know it does in mathematics because you just haven't covered it sometimes.
Wendy, have you thought about trying to make the testing at the later part of the window?
We do go
You go
as
to far-
late as
far-
we can. Because otherwise you come back from February vacation and you take it right away.
It's crazy.
This is the way it lines up. So I'm trying to do what's best for kiddos within the window. So then on page 3, it breaks down the percentage of students scoring at level 1. Like that was your goal, right? Percentage of students scoring at level 1 in English language arts is reduced by half by 2025. Things to remember, the lightest pink, so the first bar in the bar graph for each cohort, that was a different test altogether. That was what's called the SBAC. And then everything from that point forward, and the next tower. So the first 2 bars are a different test altogether.
They were both the SBAC.
SBAC, yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then the next 3 are the BT cap. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's tough to compare apples to apples when they're not.
Makes it harder and harder. So just have to get my school years right here. Which group was in? So if you look at that 2023 In grade 3, that 50% right there, that's our current sixth grade.
Okay.
Right there. So 50% of them scored at level 1 in English language arts in the 23 school district. When we go to 4th grade, they are now at 16%. 16% of them. Sorry, hold on. My color, sorry, 21%.
I was just,
This is testing whether I have the right shade.
I was gonna say that the shades of orange are really close.
Yep.
And then it's 30.
Yep, and then it's 33.
Okay, so the grade 4 is 21%,
Right.
is the current sixth graders. And then in grade 5, 33%.
Yes.
And was there enrollment differences in those years?
There was enrollment differences, the enrollment increased. So we had at least 2 to 3 students that didn't start with us join us last year. So they weren't part of that testing in the 2023 school year or the 2024.
So that can easily affect the numbers.
Yes. Okay. So we're not quite at half, but we did decrease quite a bit when you look at that cohort.
I mean, one of the things I would say to the board, when I looked at your data, I was pleased with how we were performing. If you look early on, even if it was SBAC, to where we're performing now in regards to reducing those scoring level 1s in the early primary grades 3 and 4. I think we still have work to do in regards to why isn't that necessarily carrying out as much in the 5th and 6th. And one of the reasons we switched to EL in 5th and 6th is I do think we had some gaps in regards to our explicit instruction in writing. And I just find that there's a lot of rigor and scaffolding in writing in regards to the EL materials that we're utilizing. And this assessment's not just a reading assessment. It is as much a writing assessment as it is reading. And so unlike Track My Progress, which is purely reading, this ELA score incorporates a lot of writing as well. And so that is one of the reasons, as we started to look at the upper grades, that I felt like part of this gap, us not closing some of these gaps, was just, are we providing the right instructional materials for folks in utilizing across the SU? And one of the reasons we went to EL was that over time, when we piloted it, we saw some real significant growth in that those particular classrooms, like multiple cohorts that went through, and we saw big gains. And so that's why we did make that decision to change to EL in the upper grades.
So reading this chart, I'm seeing that the grade 3 that we were just discussing,
got
which
it.
is the
Now I
current,
get it.
yeah, you got it, which is the current sixth graders.
When you're looking at the 50,
So-
how do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we're just to go through it. So in 3rd grade, the 50%, that is 50% of the 3rd grade scored at a level 1.
Yes.
Okay, and so then in grade 4, only 21% of them score. So we want the percentages to go down.
Right.
Okay, so that, not often in a chart you want to see the bars
Right.
get smaller, so I just wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly. And then this current 6th graders have not taken, or their scores, they've not taken this test.
Right, they won't take it until March. Right. So we just have how they scored as 5th graders.
And so, 21.
Okay, so do you want to,
Well, I just so the lightest color.
Yeah.
Okay, the lightest color is the year that they tested and, okay, yep, I'm sorry.
Right, so
I got
that
tripped
group,
up there for a second.
that very first bar, right?
Yes,
Under grade 3,
yes,
that group is now the current 8th grade.
okay.
So like, put that in perspective. have to keep moving everybody up a grade in my head.
Why grade 3 is how you've labeled all these
So it's comparing everybody when they're a grade 3 student.
over the last, got
Yes,
it, over all these years.
right, so our third
Okay.
graders last year, right, which are our
Yes.
current fourth graders. Sorry, this is a lot.
Yes, I see that are the 21%.
21% of last year's third graders scored a level 1.
And they are this year's fourth graders, and that's why there's a zero
Zero,
because they
right.
haven't taken.
Does that
Okay.
help?
Yes, yep,
That's why you see like a group phase out, like a color phase out as you move up.
yes, absolutely.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Questions about that one? Everybody understand that one? Okay.
Thank you.
No, it's, all right. Goal 3B was the percentage of students scoring level 1 in math is reduced by half by 2025. So again, we'll go back to our current sixth graders, when they were in third grade, they are that 17%.
Yep.
Right, our current.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. So you have it written down as 2025, so this 2021 is actually the year 2000?
Right, it was that first year back from COVID,
Okay,
right, where people could be virtual, they could be
okay.
in person. Yeah, that was the
And where everyone-
2021.
There were times when the
2020.
whole classes were out because there was a case in your room, yeah.
Yes.
I remember it well.
Not trying to send anybody. Okay, but if you look at our current fourth graders, last year's third graders, 26% of them scored a level 1. Okay, just to put like in context. And they are one of our larger cohorts, like when you look both schools together. When we look at grade 4, our sixth graders, as fourth graders, 36% of them scored a level 1 when they were in fourth grade.
Who is this 58%?
That would be,
That was yours.
yes. Sorry, I have to work backwards a
I know.
minute. And it's not-
Challenging, yeah.
It is. Do numbers with this, numbers and years at the same time. And then as fifth graders, right, and last year's fourth graders, only 13% scored. Okay, so that group was 20% the previous year and 13%, so they are decreasing the number of students.
The 13% is the current fifth graders?
Yeah.
And what were they the year before?
20%.
They were the 20. Yeah, so that's a significant reduction. That's nice.
So there are cohorts that are reducing by that, and I suspect, right, because our current third graders will have had bridges all the way through with Fidelity starting when they were in. So that's where you see that. So I suspect we'll continue to see this 1%, the number of students scoring in level 1 decrease. Again, I do think when club, right, taking the math test and middle to end of March when we still have a whole trimester left is an uphill battle that we're not going to change. That's the way I'll put that. Okay. And then as fifth graders, which are current sixth grade as fifth graders, right, 46% of them scored in a level 1. And what I can share about the change in that data is anyone that didn't start with us impacted that dramatically. So we are seeing, right, the kiddos who are not with us from start to finish when they are more transient population, and sometimes how we say that, families that move, right, because they need to, for whatever reason, they don't come in with the same background that we provide our kiddos that have been with us since preschool or kindergarten. That does make a huge difference.
And that's where you see the change. See, it kind of lines up with the language arts change too. It's the same in your kids.
But that's really nice to see that the program that we are using for kids that have done it with Fidelity, it's working.
It is, and I think that's, when you flip to the next couple of pages, it pulls out, right? Just a reminder of how we're attacking those foundational skills and where our kindergarten through second graders, like last year. So our second graders from last year are gonna take this test for the first time this year as third graders. So you can see that they're growing. If you look on page 4, this is goal 4A, all students in grades K through 12 will acquire foundational skills in literacy that set them up for success in later grades. We use that through something called DIBBLES, which is phonemic awareness, ability to decode. Okay, and so at the beginning, okay, you have the kindergarten cohort from last year. The first one all the way to the left is what they came in at, their baseline. The middle bar graph there for kindergarten is their January scores. So the goal is you want to see that green and blue get bigger and the yellow and red, same color combinations as track my progress, right? And then ultimately, right, our, again, in May is the third one, third
They
window.
squish those colors right
It
down.
squished them right down. And that's why when I shared with you guys the continuous improvement goal, these are some of the data points that we're doing, not just our ETM scores. The idea is we're building skills
Right.
for kiddos, right? And you see a very similar concept happen with our first graders, okay, and our second graders from last year.
This data is beautiful. Look at them. They all meet what we see. Except the one who's already done.
You see, and then down below is our English language arts, like our track my progress for K through 12. So again, you have kindergarten are the first 3 of September, where they started. We tested December for track my progress, and then again in May and June. So we see that decreasing.
That looks great.
So it'll be nice to be able to compare this to hopefully those third grade scores when we get them. If you flip over, there's no like DIBBLES equivalent in math. So we pulled out what's called counting and cardinality, right? The idea that you can do one-to-one correspondence. So we pulled out a specific skill, specifically by kindergarten, just to show, right, that's that bottom one. Again, how that's increasing, okay? You don't have number sense, that's the other term for it, a one-to-one correspondence. It makes it really much harder to understand that 6 + 4 is 10. And then eventually get to the idea you can start at 6 and not have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then go.
Or that one's one, not a handful.
Yes, right? Kids have interesting concepts of numbers when they come, which is great. But if you ask a kid what's more of something, it'll depend what you're holding. It's not going to depend how many of anything you have. Some of our
Oh, like the size.
the size, right? Like a visual concept, right? Well, it looks like you have more chips versus pennies, even though they're 5 and 5. Yep. So it's that skill set.
That's counting and
Cardinality.
cardinality.
I'll also say in both literacy and math intervention, we are picking our kindergartners up to provide support. Like, I don't think we even made it to the second week of September. Anybody needed support, everybody was getting it. With the idea that some have already exited, they just needed a little boost to start. So if you flip to pages 6 and 7, there's no kids in here to give the meme. But I did it the other day. I think it made it very uncool.
5309, that's what I was told that you're
Yeah.
supposed to say. You just keep saying it, and then maybe
I stopped a whole group in their tracks because I did it and they were like, okay, it only took me a couple months. I think this is probably a little more helpful than tracking year by year. Okay, so page 6 gives you our English language arts from last year compared to the rest of the state, the percentage of students scoring proficient by grade level. Okay, so in grade 3, we're the blue. we had 47% of our students score proficient or above. And the state level, that was 48%, so we're kind of right on par. Fourth grade, 56% of our population scored proficient. State level was 61%. Grade 5, 33% of them scored proficient versus the state level of 55%. And grade 6, 44 scored proficient. And the state level was 58%. If you really want to move yourself, that chart below kind of explains like what kids' current school years were and when they tested, right? So in 2022 to 2023, 77% of our students were proficient. They're currently ninth graders. Okay. So you can see each cohort move ahead. Makes sense. Sometimes it's a little easier for me than the bar.
Right, I see as you go across
Yeah.
each year, for the most part, they increase.
Right, you can see for the most part their growth. And then in math, you'll see in grade 3, this is page 7. Right, 53% of our students scored were proficient. Statewide, only 33% of third graders.
It's knocked it out of the park for that one.
Yeah, and this was in math. Grade 4, 50% were proficient, and only 34% were proficient statewide. This is why I think this is more helpful than the scaled score average on the front page, because it makes it look like, right, not a lot of our kids met this standard. But when you actually look at our, who's in the seat, right? That's the group. In grade 5, 31% of our students were proficient compared to the statewide 36%. And in 6th grade, 31% were proficient and compared to statewide 48%. And again, down below kind of tracks them.
Again, if you only have 10 kids, they're each worth 10%.
Yes. There is that. So the 12. Or 11. Which is now 6th grade. Yeah. Questions? Yeah.
This is, I'm sorry, this is kind of off track.
Yeah.
But are you working on PLPs too?
So we do that through like a capstone project or flexible pathways. Right now, every 6th grade group is picking a project to work on that benefits the community. So what is essentially community service? And that's how they're hitting those standards. We have a couple kiddos who do individualized education plans and things like that, who are working on different avenues.
PLP is kind of like a portfolio.
Right.
I should explain that.
Other questions? All right, there is one more. You can get to science in a second. All right, and then on page 8 is our science scores, which is only our 5th graders. They take that in 5th, 8th, and 10th grade, I believe. So you will see again that our group, like our scale score average was 1720, the state average was 1741. And our 5th graders, 39% of them were proficient. And statewide, that was 44%.
So the difference between the 720 and the 741 is just 5%, sort of.
Roughly, yeah. Skill score
Just
is
because
like
of-
how many types of questions they got right in certain, and then all factors together based on level of difficulty.
Just because sometimes when you're seeing these big numbers, and you're
Yeah.
like, how much space does that really mean, even though,
Right.
you know, between 1750 and 1725, how much does that really actually mean? Yeah, okay. Which,
It adapts, just like tracking and progress, so based on how kids answer,
okay,
it changes. And the idea around that is like, so kids aren't getting the same questions in order.
Mhm.
Sorry.
well, so if somebody is going through it and they are answering higher level types of questions, it continues to give them higher level types of questions?
It could, yes, if they answer it like
Correctly.
correctly.
Or if somebody's going through and they're just answering lower level types of questions, it'll continue on that
Right.
type of path. So they're not all actually getting the same question necessarily.
Typically, right, for example, in Track My Progress, just because I can see those questions, and I don't give them. In September, pretty much everybody at each grade level gets the same 5 questions. May not be in the same order, but they get the same 5 questions. And then based on how they answer those, they either get harder or they get lower. And the way Track My Progress labels them is like medium, easy, very easy. But really, when you go across to like the Common Core standard, at a certain point, it may even drop it down a grade level. So then that means if you're answering questions at a grade level below, right, you're not gonna be proficient in
Yes.
that grade level.
Yeah.
So some version of that happens on these VTCAP tests. I just don't get to see it back end
Okay.
like that.
That's
And
fine.
I will share the science test covers a lot of knowledge, but also is very language heavy and it's a lot of writing.
And also sometimes they'll give in all these tests, sometimes it will look like you have the same question a
Right.
second time, but it's really like you have to look for the nuance before you know what you're doing.
Right. One of our focal points we just talked about last week in our leadership team meeting, and then we'll talk about tomorrow in our faculty meeting. And we've talked about it in data teams leading up, but as we get ready to track my progress tests again next week, is the idea of slowing kids down. What is the question asking? Because sometimes
They're jumping it.
they are jumping it, and it reads, right, like certain tests read to them, but they don't want to wait for the person to get all the way through. To get it. But they're jumping the question and not actually answering it, they're trying to assume. So that is one tendency we have noticed, and like, what is the question asking? Just like when you go from gendered equations to word problems, right? Like, what is the word problem asking you to do in math? That is kind of where we're at with some of our kiddos, and we kind of have that pinpointed, like, who needs that?
Well, I think it's also important that this is just one tool
Yes.
of an evaluation, just one. We need to look at it holistically from
Yes.
all points, so. I mean, it's good information to have, it's important, but
It
it's
is.
just, it's one of a bigger puzzle.
And you might have a kid who's proficient with their dog died yesterday and they're not.
Right. So like the format of this is, it'll be different this year, because why would we keep anything the same? But the format of the VTCAP is, it's 2 90-minute test sessions, 2 days of 90-minute test sessions for math.
Third graders must love that.
Oh, yeah. Third grade, 6th grade, all of it.
That's a
9th
lot.
grade, I can think of some 9th graders that I taught that would be a long time for. And then science is 2 full days if you're a fifth, 2 90-minute, they're about 60 minutes, probably 2 60-minute blocks for science for 5th graders. And then English language arts previously has been 2 90-minute blocks as well. This year it'll go to a third, I don't know how long it will be. They're gonna pull out everybody has to do an essay. They're gonna pull that out to a separate testing day. That's a lot.
That's it.
And they're very good, they persevere. We'll ignore the booing as they go down the hallway, but they do a really good job of it. That is a long time to sit for testing. And they did get just good. Some groups would just click right through to the end of it.
You're instilling in them, it's
Yeah.
like, so. you
Doing
know,
your best.
Yeah,
Right.
actually trying.
Yep.
Good. Thank you. Does anybody have any more questions or comments about the VCAP?
You're welcome.
These were taken in, spring of,
Yeah, end of March, beginning of April 2025.
okay. Do they expect turnaround to be faster next time?
They say that every year, yes, I believe so.
Okay,
Believe it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
So I guess I'm the member of the policy committee that's here. Who you're on the policy committee?
Mine, no.
Okay, so it's just me.
Yep, so we'll skip over the business manager's report as she is not here.
She was here.
I think she's in Granville.
They would agree with that. So yes, let's move on to the policy committee.
So these policies we are sending out for your approval or for you to go over. They've been pushed out by the policy committee. So we've gone through these over and over. We have gone through these with a fine nit comb. And you've heard of these before. There's the interest supervisor union transfer, which is something that came up for us.
Yeah.
And also policy for providing a safe and secure learning environment for students. So it's behavioral threat assessment teams. And we went through this with a fine tooth comb and compared it to what the laws are and regulations. So if you haven't had an opportunity to look through it, maybe we should take a minute to go through and see if there are any questions or anything you want addressed by the policy committee, or if you think it looks good.
So the behavioral threat assessment team's policy, is this a new policy or is this a revision of current policy that we have?
This one is,
I think this one's new.
they're both new.
They're both new.
They're both new, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they're both new.
All right, does anybody have any questions or comments on either of these policies that they would like to be brought back to the policy committee or?
So is the idea is then next month, we'll vote on this as,
If it's adopted by everyone, we don't have to make changes, right? We do it reports. Next month.
okay, so that's the date will be adopted by, we're not voting on that tonight?
We
or
are not
we?
voting on it tonight, no, it has not been warned to adopt. It was, I don't know whether they call it the first reading or the second reading. But it's a reading for us.
I think it's your second reading of the K through 8,
Yes,
and then first reading of the,
Of the behavioral code.
yes.
And there were changes made for the first reading based on feedback from the opinion.
great.
And Robin, do you recommend that we approve these two policies next month
I do,
as written?
I do recommend. I mean, we did go through, there were a lot of words, there was a lot of wordsmithing and a lot of, we have some lawyers in the group and they were very, very clear about what they thought might need to be. And as well as educated, former educators. There was a lot of talk over these.
I think on the first one, on the behavioral threat assessments, I think to have this is just going to help make our schools even safer. And so that's reassuring. On the transfer policy, remember we had parents here requesting, and we agonized over that. And there was no policy per se to fall back on. And we didn't have, I don't know about you, I don't think you have 3 lawyers on this board. So we were kind of winging it. So we had to do the best we could without guidance. This allows to have something that's been well thought out and vetted. It puts it through Jamie that will have the overall perspective of the whole SU. Rather
Which
than
is really important.
we're lighthearted and the next district is ironclad, no. It also speaks to a cap, and that cap will continue so that if one student transfers, we still get the benefit of that on the wane. But that student keeps continuing, our cap would go from 5 to 4, if I got this correct. Only be 4 openings.
Right.
So it isn't 5 every year, that would go 5, 10, 15, 20. That's an ongoing cap of 5 that gets filled as each student that's part of that clear moves up a grade. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it gives flexibility. I think that if if it's somehow going to impact our position with state, whatever state policy it is, the superintendent has a way to say no, which makes it well. And it's got a timetable of when you apply, and so I'm very impressed with what you came up with.
I agree, I think it's very well written. I think it addresses all the questions and it provides a clear guidelines.
And it was really critical that it was equitable, so the way it's written, it makes it equitable.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Let's go.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. We will, I believe potentially have them up for a vote next meeting or an adoption. Okay. Great. We'll move on to 7.5 farm to school and task force updates.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple members on here virtually, so feel free to jump in. They are going to be attending our leadership team meeting
Nice.
Monday. So they're on the agenda, and we'll have a couple extra teachers join that as well to get some more feedback around there to make it more actionable for the winter months and be ready to plan for the spring. And the exciting piece is they did, and I think I mentioned this in August, we applied for a grant, a garden grant, $3,500. Well, the money actually showed up. So that's always exciting because I was a little like, I filled this form out a really long time ago and it hasn't come in yet. So that came in right before vacation. So
Wonderful.
they will be able to start to utilize that to prepare for the gardens for the spring. Lindsay or Hannah or Josh, anything I'm missing?
Did that money help with the reward?
Hey all. No, Lindy, you captured everything. Yeah, we're just awaiting our meeting next Monday with our RSUD leadership team to see how to best integrate forest and farm curriculum with educators. That's about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to just compliment the farm to table group and the leadership team and Lindy's support is 40 years ago, as part of a movement to bring recycling, advanced recycling in the community out of serving and public works. So we thought the best way, and we also did water conservation, is to get behavioral changes, is to teach the kids and the kids to teach their parents. And so we did it, but we were outside the school system. And so we got a new superintendent. Superintendents were too busy doing other things. First they dropped the recycling, then they dropped the water conservation. So it doesn't mean that doesn't happen, but it's here we're talking about incorporating. We see it's important. It's a mission that should be achieved, and we need to do it together. And so we are doing it together. And I think that's not only is it a credit to our side, but I think it's important to be done. It's one of those things you want our kids to grow up caring about nature and what we do with everything that's within our team. So again, thank you.
Yes, thank you, that's great. All right. So, board development, Act 73 updates and information related to upcoming legislative session. I almost want to wait for Jamie to return for this one, if that's okay, right?
If we could,
Yeah,
just talk about board development for January.
smart, yes, let's do that.
And I had an idea, but before, the idea is anybody want to share a topic, an article, something that you'd recommend that we further our education on for our January meeting? My suggestion is that, and I think it goes back to the state task force on board development. We have an Articles of Agreement. And it was passed, it was signed, and it way back when Stockbridge and Rochester teamed up. And I thought it might be a good idea to have that actual Articles of Agreement in our packet and look at that. What did we, and I wasn't, I fought outside for it, but what did we, what were our assumptions, what were our arguments for consolidation, how have we done, and then also what are our commitments to do that. So I think it's worthwhile for us to spend just a few minutes just going back and saying, because we're still being ruled or guided by that document. It's a legal document. And part of the fight under Act 73 is that certain people in the state and AOE wanted to basically allow the state to say, we can override the Articles of Agreement. In other words, the decision that we made to unite would be taken from our hands. So it's a very valuable principle, and I thought if you're interested, we're gonna take a look at that.
I think that's a great idea, Bill, especially since maybe one way we can meet Act 73 is by moving some kids from school to the other school.
Yeah.
So let's see how they go together.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that sounds great, I definitely would love to rehash.
We can have PTSD later.
No, but I do agree that it, with the uncertainty of what's happening in the state, I think it is important to see how we came together in the first place and some of the values that we held then, hold now, and just to kind of review. Yeah.
As a new board member and a new resident, I would certainly be interested to.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that as a 5-year member of RSUD, I must say, I don't remember, my memory's going, but I don't remember one debate of one issue, whether that it was a Rochester view versus a Stockbridge view in a vote. It was, most of the votes were unanimous. And we didn't have a feeling that it's us versus, I mean, we were one educational community, and that just speaks to the value of our consolidation. Tonight, we talked about educational outcomes and other ones. So.
Well, I think it's important that we look at it from that positive point of view of positives that have come from it, not maybe necessarily all that we hashed out to get there.
No, and I wasn't talking about the hashing, I was talking about, we haven't hashed. We had challenges here, how to make the budget work, how to do this and this, but it wasn't like we had different points of views based on our residents. As a board, we talked
Right, as a
about,
board,
we were united
Correct.
in our mission and our vision of how to make things work, so. And that wasn't necessarily a given back when the two towns consolidated. So, good news.
Bill, well, I can't remember things, I just tell people that I've been around a while, the hard drive's full.
Perfect. Okay, great. Well, we will come back to our board development for this
meeting. We'll move on to draft 2.
So the very last page of your packet has two different budgets that were fleshed out. The first one is the student support budget, which we introduced last time. There's no changes to what I showed you last month in November. Just kind of a friendly reminder, we're using last year's, to change 1 penny on the tax rate is a little more than $31,000 that you either add or.
So that's still last year's number.
That is still last year's number, yeah, so just to keep that in mind, but that's what that 31,252 and 48 cents means.
This number doesn't really come about until we have all the calculations with the yield and all that stuff, right?
Right, yeah. Usually in January, because everybody else needs it for March. So I wouldn't be shocked if we had it.
Right, because you have to get announced tuition in there and stuff, so that's got to be coming up.
You'll have to
pretty
do
soon,
that
too.
next meeting. And then underneath that, in tinier font, you can tell my eyesight is better days. Okay, is our general education salary and benefits. So this is kind of based on actuals. What I will share is in effort to get us a little bit closer to those class size minimums. The staffing for grades K through 6 classroom teachers, right, would basically eliminate the position I haven't been able to fill in Rochester, which would mean that there would be a kindergarten, a 1-2, a 3-4, and a 5-6, roughly. I haven't really fleshed that idea out, but kindergarten doesn't have a minimum class size because it's not mandatory. So that the idea is we don't want to try and figure out the powers that be, mess with those numbers.
Right, because even if you put them in a 1-2 class, it's not going to count.
I don't think so. I don't know that anybody knows that answer, but
How are you gonna do math?
that's why I say I haven't fleshed that out yet.
'Cause that's-
Right
that's
now,
the
we
hard
do
part.
have a content-based model in both buildings, right? Where one teacher teaches English language arts in our 4 through 6, and one teacher teaches math and science. So I'm not sure.
That's the hard part when,
Because it's 2 different math programs in 5th and 6th grade.
yeah,
So,
different standards.
The bottom line is that that for class minimums, we can't have 3 grades together.
right, so that would mean Rochester is closer to meeting those magical numbers. They don't necessarily hit the mark everywhere. There's still a small cohort in there. In Stockbridge, it keeps the same configurations. It keeps a kindergarten and 1st grade, a 2nd and 3rd grade, and a 4 through 6. So it doesn't meet the academic degree because I have three bands.
So what's, Stockbridge, you get K and 1?
K1,
Mhm.
2, 3,
Yeah,
and a 4 through 6.
4 through 6.
Would it meet the band if you change them to 1-2K, 1-2, 3-4?
The additional problem in that is I don't have the space to break it out that way. As well as there would be the 6th grade number is significantly higher. It's an average of 15 kids over 3 years, or however that's counted for. Whereas grades, to go back to Jamie, you would think I would know. In his report, he breaks it out for us, just as I get this mixed up. Right, in 1st grade, it's 10 students. 2nd through 5th grade is 12 students. And 6th through 8 is 15 students. So when you look at those bands, bump everybody up.
So for a minimum class size for 6th grade, it has to be 15.
Over 3 years.
I think that,
I think that's why he's on that task force.
that makes it really tough to try to plan and try to figure out.
Right, and I think it asks, I know we're talking budget right now, but I think it asks one of those bigger questions that came up in our, from our community engagement task force, where does 6th grade fall in all this?
Right.
Some folks expressed the idea that maybe choice should start at 6th grade. And others also expressed, and I feel like I have to say this because it doesn't feel good putting this forward. People, especially parents, and teachers express the idea of teaching one single grade level. And here I am trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
I'm confused, actually. I thought the state was saying we only could have 2 classes tied together,
2 grade levels,
2 grade levels, but isn't what?
right? So we're not gonna meet it in Stockbridge is what I'm telling you.
Unless you do something radically different, we're not going to meet
Correct.
the new minimums.
And because I have 3 grade levels banded together.
But if we put, say, pre-K to 3 in Stockbridge and 4 through 6 here or something,
Right.
then we can meet them?
We'd be much closer.
Or, I mean,
I don't have
since there's
that,
that jump, send them to middle school
right?
and let them go.
Yeah.
I'm wondering,
Like, there are, a middle school's already
it's
starting the
tough.
year earlier than, they're already integrated in 6th grade, right? Our kids are entering 7th grade in Bethel.
I don't necessarily,
Well, that starts at 6.
6th
Yeah.
grade,
Oh, we
so
have
our
total-
kids are moving in at
Yeah.
7th, where kids are already sitting there integrated already.
Right, some, but other schools that our kids attend don't start till 7.
Right.
So it's an absolute discussion that we need to try to flush out, but
There has been, I have been approached by some.
I just wanna like remind us back to, from our retreat and what came out of that task force, right? Like, the budget that I'm putting forward in front of you, staffing classroom wise is, and I just wanna acknowledge it because I know it. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to ignore the feedback that was given. I'm doing it because I'm trying to get us closer to the regulations and acts of That's the way I'm going with that. Not doing it because it's what I feel is best, because it's not necessarily where I land. I'm doing it to get us a little bit closer because I do value rural schools in our community. So Rochester, with this structure, would meet that, okay, meet those class size minimums. Stockbridge will not, surely from the standpoint of 4 through 6 being banded together. So I just think you have to keep that in mind. We don't have to have this fixed by next school year. We have 3 years to,
Sure, because it's an average of 3.
it's average of 3. We won't be able to keep doing the 4 through 6 in Stockbridge. And that is not gonna change regardless of the class, right? Because you can't have 3 grade levels banded in one classroom. Right, you can still do multi-age, that's what they call it, but you can't have 3 different grade levels in one classroom. As a grade.
It's hard to believe a century ago, they were all in one classroom.
There was a lot less that were being taught.
Yeah, so I just, that's what this budget supports right now. So I just wanted to be transparent that like, there's a 1.0 FTE reduction, that's what you see over there, and that's 7.6. It also includes outdoor ed in there and pathways, right? The other state requirement that would be great to me is that we actually have health classes.
Have what?
Health classes.
Yes.
We leverage our things like our school nurse and our school counselor to do that in terms of having someone certified actually teaching. We haven't been doing that. And that covers a wide spectrum of things. So we did increase that. We will continue, you will see in your budget next month under our contracted service line item, that we will continue trying to partner with outside groups to bring different cultures and world languages into us. We do have something in the works for February to have those dates finalized for this year.
good, because that is definitely something that I
Yes.
think the board values is that exposure to, world language, world culture.
Right, there's a group, I believe, coming out of the Dartmouth area, and we have like 3 different choices. Nice. That are traveling through the area, and they come for like a week long intensive.
I think those kind of programs really are memorable with kids.
Yes.
I know
I think so,
we did one of those in the 6th grade, and I remember it to this day.
Right.
The experience that I had was incredible. They, they mixed all the middle schoolers up
Right.
together, so you weren't with just like your regular cohort. And we did projects and just did intense learning for a week.
Yeah.
So,
So that is in the works for this,
okay, great.
but, So that's why it doesn't like make sense salary wise, that $9,600. It's more for a contract. Other questions about this? So overall, those changes is less than a penny on your tax rate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the pre-K increase, is that just due to, staffing and benefits?
Yes, just
Benefit package?
registers.
Yeah, insurance. Do we know what the percentage of insurance increase is?
What did you say last time? 7%. It's lower than it's been.
Yeah, it was not double digits for the first time.
Not double digits. 7 to 8% sticks my brain. So yes, that really just has to do with what insurance.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions for Lindy in regards to this?
Any other direction you'd like me to work in? You'll get the second draft of this next time, which unless you give me a direction, really won't change. What I can provide in place of, I keep leaving those numbers in just because I feel like that's
I like
important.
it, yeah.
But I can also add what that would mean, like, so based on what we budgeted here, I can put in my report, what does that mean based on the enrollment we have right now, like how many kids in the classroom? Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yep.
Not just by grade level, but I can break it down that way, if that's helpful for you to visually see.
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
Right there. That is. kind of very standard. Other questions? I'm gonna text Jamie and see if someone can come back, because everything else is immaterial.
So the PE is currently a 0.8 and you would do
Right.
0.2 as a.
That would include teaching else.
Yep, okay. Great. Right, does anybody else have any other questions on the budget for Lindsay? Great. All right, I'm really not sure.
I just texted him and see if that,
Okay.
see if he gets it.
I would love to grab a little more water, if I could take a quick 30-second.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, here he is.
Still need water.
The water of the sink's okay, right?
Yes, that one. Hopefully, we just know where you at. Yeah.
So they get their water.
We just finished, budget drafts.
Great, thank you. All right, well, we skipped over the Act 73 updates and information related to the upcoming legislative session.
So thanks to Bill. Bill provided a couple letters from the RSCA in your packet. Which hopefully you were able to take a look at. I mean, what I would say in regards to where we're currently at and within Act 73 is a few things just to remember. Act 73 provided for a MAP task force to create a report that could provide up to 3 maps of new district and SU configurations that work to try to comply within school, student enrollment of 4,000 to 8,000, either in a supervisory union or a supervisory district. The task force set out to do that work. It decided that it didn't have the time nor the ability, based on research they had done, to generate a report and map for the legislature by December 1st.
Which is very true.
The report provided left the current districts in place and encouraged the legislature to operate off of a 5 regional shared service model, like a board of, like a BOCES, which stands for Board of Centralized Educational Services. It comes from New York statute, which we have in statute in Vermont. And that those regional boards, which would provide, there'd be representation from RSU and other SUs or SDs within those regions to serve on a board that would oversee things like special education programming, which we know is a major cost driver in the state. Could oversee things like transportation contracts, could oversee bulk purchasing, could possibly look at doing some more coordination around maintenance and facilities, things of that nature where we might be able to incur some savings over time. Professional development, certainly, bulk purchasing in regards to instructional materials, the board would take that up.
It would be assessed by them, like we are assessed by
Yep,
SU.
exactly. So it would be a level above that would create larger regions that hopefully would see some additional savings. We sort of operate that in some regard as we do in an SU configuration, right? Multiple boards that come up to the SU. So that is what is in the report that is due to be released today. I haven't seen the report being released. I will get it all to you once it is in final draft and released. That report then will go back to both House and Senate Ed, and House and Senate Ed will then be charged to make decisions in regards to how they want to move forward in creation of a map or not. Act 73 says a map shall come to the floor and be voted up or down this coming session. It still needs to get through those committees though to get to the floor. All right, the task force is just an advisory group that created a report. The legislature gets to decide what that final map will or will not be. If that map doesn't get to the floor or it gets voted down on the floor, Act 73 then stops in place. All right. Yep, the whole bill pauses. So in regards to Act 73, my sense is that there will be a push to reintroduce the 5-district map that we had at the start of last session from the administration. Okay, for House and Senate to consider. And they're going to take a bunch of testimony on those maps, right? And they will decide as a committee whether they want to move forward with designing maps or not. And one of the other big decisions they'll have to decide is the map they're going to bring to the floor going to include SUs or not? The legislation only required SUs to be incorporated into one of the 3 maps of the task force. It didn't require the map that goes to the floor to have SUs. All right, so that's a big nugget to have too. The Secretary of Ed had said in public at the task force meeting in early November that one of the things she did not like about the CTE map that was introduced as a possible concept was that it still incorporated SUs in it. So we know, I mean, the Secretary, that is clear that is the governor's choice, right? Like his preference would be to have school districts. And then after the task force made a decision of a vote to move forward this BOCES proposal, which I said the governor did say that we need larger districts in order to close smaller schools and get FTE ratios in the land. Which I think leads us back to this idea that the 5-district map will be reintroduced. Whether it picks up steam or a version of that picks up steam is to be determined. But where we're at with 73 right now is either a map will go to the floor and be voted up or down, and if it votes down, the bill pauses. Now, there's also an opportunity that one Senate or House Ed might look and say, 73 doesn't make sense. We have this report. We don't want to go down this path. We want to go down a different path, of which their report's going to set forth of working with these regional larger entities, BOCES, and looking at mapping out some type of method of voluntary mergers within those larger regions over the next 10 years. That's what the report was saying. And it incorporates this idea of larger regional high schools. Of which, frankly, if you look at minimum class size numbers of 18 it's gonna require larger regional high schools
Right.
in order to meet it.
So that's opening up, construction funding possibly?
Well, the bill talks about a construction funding and not moving to, the report, sorry, talks about construction funding and not forcing into any type of regional high school until construction aid was provided.
Right.
The legislature, I mean, I think you could ask any one of them to a person and say, where are you coming up with funding for construction aid? And there's no answer.
Yeah, and not
There's
fund
actually
our
a chunk.
schools. I mean, because not only have to build a school, what are you gonna do with all the existing schools?
So
We know that, like, why not just put that money back into the schools?
the, so where we're at with Act 73 is, just so you remember the timeline, let's say a map is approved. It's just important that you understand the timeline we're talking about. Map's approved, there are new district boards that are then elected next November. So essentially a year from last month, okay? Those boards then get elected and get brought online because they start to then work toward transitioning. This should feel like Act 46 of some of you that went through it. These boards in the SU stay operational for 2 more years. The new district is then forming starting after next November. They essentially have a 1.5 years to hire a superintendent, right? Hire central office staff, build a budget, because then they're moving forward that year out in 28, 29. That's the timeline of the bill. And the foundation formula starts to begin implementation in 20. The other part of Act 73 that's important is that there is going to then be a vote on what the weights actually will be within the legislature. In the, not this session, the following session, so in 27, they haven't set what the weights are for the foundation formula. And remember, part of why that it's been stated that you need the larger districts is in order for the foundation formula to work. Because with the weights that they've looked at as model weights, some districts would lose upwards of 30 to 40% of their revenue in the foundation formula, which would essentially just squeeze their school district out, right?
Right.
So the idea is you create these larger districts to spread out the weights to allow for the foundation formula to actually work and not just choke out districts.
This is the new foundation formula that they came up with?
Yeah, no, that's in the bill. The foundation formula is in the
They just
bill.
need to fix that.
Well, they haven't even decided the weights yet, right? Like they want to see what the new district sizes are so they can decide how to create weights that make districts work.
Say that. Scott's wants 5, map of 5, and he's gonna guarantee lower taxes. How are they gonna do that? Because he's gonna, in the legislature, just gonna have a formula that requires lower spending. That lower spending will be forced on those 5 mega districts. Oh, we've saved all that money. Well, how are you gonna save all that money? Well, you cut programs, and you cut teaching, and you cut all the things that, you know, they're critical to have a quality education program in the state. So you can say, hey, I cut the costs and go for it. It's almost mission impossible to me to do that. The question I had was, you talked about 5 mega districts. Sounds like we've got 5 regional support, what do you call it,
Board of Centralized Educational
Yes,
Services.
for services. So there's 2 questions. One is, to me, is okay, we've got 5, it's just different. It's cooperative, it makes sense because we're talking about these sort of things that there are possible shared efficiencies by going transportation or things like that. So, but technically, to those regional support 5 things, is that a map by definition of Act 73?
No, but I think he's right in regards to the statute on that, because those are not reconstituting SU or ST lines.
No, but the legislature could make that, we've got 5.
The legislature is not required to necessarily even bring a matter forward, right? The task force was supposed to deliver up to 3 weeks.
No, I'm just saying that you've got this debate going on, and trying to capture the minds and hearts of the population, taxpayers of the state. And I think, as you can say, we've got 5 regions here that are gonna support and bring about efficiencies without destroying the educational ability of the local schools. And it's cooperative, and we've got incentives to join. So I like to think that if that word gets out, that we might have a strong positive result from the.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the challenge is, right, like what you said, I agree with, is that the governor can get in front of the press every day and talk about 12% property tax increases again, and 41% over the last 5 years. And that's what's in the press release that's gonna hit the papers tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so the only way I see this not resulting in larger supervisory districts is the public saying that they don't support it. It's gonna be political.
Yeah.
If the public doesn't come out strongly in opposition to this, then I think that our legislature will be in a difficult predicament in regards to the governor then saying, the legislature didn't do this, your taxes went up again, nothing got done. And I think what you'll see is the Democrats worried about losing more seats. This is all political. And then the governor reintroducing this same exact bill again with more seats to try to make it happen. That's what this is. And it's gonna be the will of the public to talk about what they want, like why they moved to Vermont. Do they value their small rural schools? Do they value local democracy and voicing budget decision-making? Those are all the things that will change whether or not a map hits the floor. That's what I believe. It's gonna be public voice and comment. I believe the task force set out to create a map. Overwhelmingly, people came out in opposition to that, and the task force didn't present a map.
Right, they come on.
But the task force had 6 legislators on it, and then also some people from the field. I really do believe this is going to pick up much more steam because we're in year 2 of the biennium. People are going to be getting elected next November. This will become much more political in nature, this conversation.
Oh. Can we jump quickly to Tara's business manager's report so she can go home? Sorry.
They already went through the budget, Tara.
No worries. My report is just letting you know what's happening in the business office during the month of December. In addition to building budgets, we're also finalizing audits. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I don't have any questions for you. Does anybody else have questions for our business manager in regards to her report? Great.
Thank you.
We will be doing announced tuition next month, is that correct?
Yes, you'll have announced tuition, 3rd draft of your budget, and your FY25 audit.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
I don't think I hit right now.
Good night. And thank you for allowing us to jump to.
So any other questions? I mean, with that, here's this is what's hard about Act 73 is it's a constant moving target.
Yeah.
Even in regards to how the legislature created the legislation, meaning that there's not a direct map that we're talking about yet, right? And so, at this point in time, what I would say to you is that there's a report and that in January, Senate and House Ed will decide what they want to do with the report. and they'll make some decisions in regards to if they're gonna move forward with creating a map to bring forward to the floor. The House Ed Chair, Representative Conlon, indicated he planned to move forward with the creation of a map after the report came out. And it's my sense that the Speaker of the House and the Senate Pro Tem plan to bring forth a map to the floor. What that map looks like, I don't know. There'll be testimony on it. We'll certainly try to make certain that the map makes sense for our kids. But thus far, unless the public really comes out in opposition, I'm not hearing from leadership that they have a plan to necessarily move forward with a map on the House side. I do believe Senate Ed is more interested in learning about what's working. How do we duplicate those efforts to try to find efficiencies and savings? That is why I believe they are visiting districts and schools right now on the ground to get a better sense of the concerns of the public and how best to move forward. I think we all agree that we need to do something. What I worry about is making certain it's well thought out and so that it doesn't result in lost kids, lost towns, and possibly not resulting in any efficiency, actually resulting in possibly an expansion of spending. A good example I'll give you, and then I'll move on, is if you create 5 districts, we have to level up all those teacher contracts.
Right.
We worked hard to become more competitive in RSU. If you start leveling us up with all of our neighbors, right there, I will tell you, we could close a majority of our schools, and that's probably the difference of just leveling up contracts. Because it's not gonna work that we're gonna level down.
Okay, does anybody else have any further questions or comments? The superintendent. Please continue to keep us informed and send out updates as you receive them in any type of latest terms you can.
I'm trying.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to board vacancy, interview of interested board member candidates for Stockbridge vacancy.
Yeah, so we received one interested candidate.
Got it out the night with us.
And thanks for being here.
Yeah, sure.
And I did send the letter out to you guys for review. And so this should work to be able to have a back and forth with Jesse. I get your name. You did, yep. I'm so bad with names sometimes. And then the board, since you have one candidate, by statute, we need to appoint. The window, so I would say that Jesse should be who you're appointing unless you really had any type of concern. And then you would need to work hard to secure a candidate and have a special meeting. Just so you know how it works in regards to statute.
And do we just interview and then what do we do?
So the executive session there is because as a board, let's say you had 4 members of the public, right? You would interview them, and then you could go debate that in the executive session. You could take action in public. But I don't see any reason tonight with one candidate, unless you needed to go into executive session, you don't need to do that, because you're not considering multiple. But the interview would always be in public.
Yeah. Thank you.
Could you move up? Closer
Sure,
to-
shoot to the hot
Oh my goodness, sure.
Take any chair you want.
Yeah, I'll take this one. I guess as an intro, my name is Jesse Bissett. My wife Lindsay was on earlier. She's been working at school on a food and farm initiative. We live on South Hill with our son Asher, who attends Miss Jessie's class in pre-K. This is second pre-K year. And it's sort of a pivotal time, I think, to have an opening and to be showing interest in the board position. I was born in the northern part of the state, outside of St. Albans, and attended a school there that has probably a similar size to what the 2 campuses have here. And so I have, I think, a feeling of what small community schools are like, what it was like for me. I moved away from the state for quite some time and moved back into Stockbridge in 2017. I would just suggest if you have questions, please ask away, but otherwise, I'm just super vested in what happens to the school and in the community with our son, and ensuring that we make a focus on what helps the kids going forward, not so much as focusing on what may have benefited kids in the past. And I know this is a period of immense change in regards to the state and the educational landscape. And so I think it's important to be involved in that process.
Excellent. Have you ever served on any other boards?
I'm on the alumni council for my high school.
Okay.
It's my 6th year doing that. Actually, I roll off this year, which is perfect timing. Doing both of those would be tough. But on the sort of local and town capacity, this would be my first.
So what we have right now is to finish out this year of PATS, which then come May would need to be voted on if you wanted to continue to finish PATS.
You can only appoint to the next annual meeting.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Then you could run for
Correct.
that, or there will be probably others. I'm not sure how.
I think Pat's actually up. Wasn't he up this year? I think it's this seat that's actually up.
I think it's a 3-year term.
So it would be a 3-year term.
You get a petition signed, there's a minimum number for Stockbridge residents to be on the ballot. And there could be, any number of people could be on the ballot. If nobody's running, then it's a write-in process. And so
I know someone who did that.
That's how I got on
the water with
No, so,
without any training, you'll have some.
It is Bill, it is
Oh, it's Bill
Bill who
that's
is up. Should we appoint you to be on the board now? You would serve until May, and if you choose to continue, there is still another 1 year. Yeah.
Sorry, I misspoke. Thank you.
That's okay. There has been times when that has flopped too, though, that
You could run for Bill's position.
you can run for Bill's.
You could run for Bill's. And Bill could choose to run for the 1 year.
And right,
That's how
right,
that goes.
so,
That's true.
um,
That is absolutely.
but yeah, it's a commitment for sure until May, and then with potential for commitment longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been speaking with Josh and Pat in advance of his resignation, and trying to be as reasonably as well informed as I could in the process. And so when it came to light that Pat was stepping down, it seemed sort of a fortuitous time, if you will, to consider.
Does anybody have questions?
Well, it's just the general. Why are you here?
Sure. Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'm invested in my son's well-being. It's, I guess it's a unique opportunity to help guide the processes that lead to my son and his classmates' education and furtherment as human beings. And I think that, as Jamie mentioned, we, in our state, at a local level, we have the ability to impact that. And coming from a small school in the northern part of the state, I understand that. So it was a back and forth in regards to just being able to allot time and whatnot, and I'm happy to make that commitment.
So thank you.
And you understand it's like once a month, and then there's also like some homework maybe, and then you might be asked to be on a committee that will do more time.
I have that
Or another
capacity.
committee.
You can attend virtually.
Yes, no, for sure. Yeah, absolutely, understand, and the time commitment is well within that.
If the virtual option is great, my first meeting I was in Las Vegas, so.
That's where you are, nice. Nice. So the virtual option is, a lot of good things came out of COVID, and that's one of them.
Certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any other questions?
Just a statement about Jesse. and watching you in that community. You're connected. I know the preschool community, you're kind of separate, but always seeing you around, present, to connecting with others. And I think that's a great asset for this group. Is someone else directly connected to what's going on in Stockbridge Central and the community as a whole. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, absolutely, my pleasure. I think Lindsay and I both have been trying to be quite involved in the Stockbridge School and not to be overbearing. I don't want to volunteer for too many lunches, but we try to be quite involved in the process.
Executive session or event.
Does anybody want to request going into executive session? Okay, great. Then I entertain a motion to appoint Jesse as our Stockbridge Board
Director
to
to the annual meeting.
replace Pat Hudson until the annual meeting.
So,
Second,
Second.
any further discussion?
And that's effective tonight or tomorrow?
Well, as soon as he gets sworn in.
That's where you have to be sworn in. That's right.
And then I'll set up a meeting with you, we'll connect, and we'll get you a mentor and stuff.
Any further discussion? Okay, motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
But it does not hurt that you can definitely pull up a chair to the board. It'd be part of the discussion.
Yes.
Well, actually, from here, we are moving into executive session, so I don't think,
That's true.
so actually you can't. So sorry.
And that's about me, so I won't be here either.
Okay,
But I will review your notes for future agenda items. I've got a bunch of them written down too. And Amy, I will certainly connect.
we have a public comment afterwards. So are you leaving?
I would love to go see the Giants or the Patriots. You can do the public comment now if you want.
The purpose of this executive session, I'm just wondering whether we, since we're deferring our discussion of our survey, evaluation of what we've done and everything else, and we don't have the results yet of our evaluation of the superintendent, because those are due by December 12th. Why are we meeting?
This is a request that the committee had, that you were gonna meet as a board to just gather general impressions, is my understanding of the superintendent, for you to then deliver back to that group, is what I was told.
Okay.
That's what I was told.
I thought just one district was doing that.
No, every district evaluates me, and it's compiled by the, by the SU committee.
Yeah, it's normally done through the survey.
Yeah, but that's why I thought only one, when we're at the meeting, I thought someone said that in our district, we're doing this, and I didn't know that we decided that everyone was going to do that.
Yeah, I think we have the option, and I was there, to when we had that discussion. And in my mind, we have that discussion when we talk about our evaluation results. And then we talk about, okay, give us some examples, and we clarify or.
Bill, when are you guys planning? I've not been at these meetings, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just doing what I'm told. And so I was told by the evaluation chair and the board chair to warn executive sessions at the December meetings for you to just compile some generalized data specific to your board that then you as a member was going to bring back to the committee. I'm not even, when are you as a committee meeting again? Is it going to be after this upcoming January meeting?
Well, I just know that we're the first, we have our district meeting the first of all the other districts. So the other districts can have some data that we don't have.
I would say that's not true. 2 more meetings tomorrow. So you can certainly postpone this. I just don't know what that means for the evaluation. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think we can do it pretty quickly.
They're not gonna, I don't see the evaluation committee being a beat the clock, this at all.
This is not Jamie's request. I just do what the board asks me to do.
I'll just say to the board that you have an option to either go to executive session and we can talk about this in Jamie's performance and get the benefit of that discussion, or we can do that while we're evaluating our evaluation, which if we all participate by the deadline, which is December 12th, we'll have something to talk about and the results at our January meeting. So it's really up to you, and I'll leave that to the chair. I don't mean to interfere at all.
Bill, do you have a sense of, because you're on the committee and I'm not at those meetings, when were you hoping to wrap up my evaluation by?
Well, I know our goal is almost, if we can get 100% of all the board membership to participate in the survey of our superintendent, that's the first thing, so that we really have a really good cross-section to go on. And then there was an interest that that doesn't necessarily say everything when you're filling out a form and checking a box. Where's the color? Where's the kind of the substance that those check marks mean? And so way to do that, suggestion, and that's where you heard, was beyond the survey, we were going to get together and talk. And my thinking is when we talk about communication, superintendent's communication, for instance, and we hear the results of the survey, we talk about what does that mean to us? We have some examples of success or question mark. In other words, that provides the kind of the glue.
No, I just wanted to make certain your board's voice was able to be provided. Like, I didn't know if you were trying to meet some type of deadline in January.
I have not heard about, I advocated to have this thing all wrapped up before February 1st.
Okay.
They indicated that might be a stretch, so it might
So
be
then
until after February 1st.
So that's why I asked that question, because if that's the case, then January should work for you.
So has the superintendent evaluation gone out yet?
Yes.
Yes.
So if we all fill that out, I'll fill that out. Then, and as you're filling it out, maybe make some notes of other things that you'd like to discuss. And then next meeting, we can have an executive session for personnel to discuss, so you can get a flavor. Okay, sounds great.
And not to confuse things, but also Robin's going to be distributing a survey for our
I did this
self-evaluation.
this morning.
She did this morning.
For our self-evaluation of us.
Yes, so
Okay,
also
so
make sure we do that one
We're
as well.
obligated to do both.
Yes.
Thank
And
you,
do we
Robin.
get, so in the past, there was a prize for which board participated the most in these evaluations, so I would recommend that your
Group's got a prize figured out.
group gets it right, exactly, so.
Yeah, please
Okay.
do it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well then let's, we're going to, new hires or resignations?
Not at this time.
Okay, well then let's move on to public comment.
Well, we have one public here.
Excellent. Hearing no public comment. Our next meeting is Monday, January 5th, 5:30 in Stockbridge.
I do have some questions.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, first, I'd like to understand, under the proposed state regulations for the new school districts, in terms of the student population per class, how do we meet those requirements?
Do you want me to take that up?
Yeah, I was just trying to find.
So, Keith, and it's in the principal's report, you'll see a breakdown of current configuration enrollment in Rochester and current configuration in Stockbridge, and we currently meet it in Rochester in our K1 cohort and our 4-5 cohort. We're just slightly below it in grade 2, and we are not meeting it in grade 3 and 6. In Stockbridge, you are meeting it in K1, and you're slightly missing it in 2-3, and you don't meet it in the 4-5-6 configuration because you cannot have 3 grades in a multi-age classroom. You can only have 2 in order to comply with statute. And Lindy does a nice job of also providing in her report what it would look like if you were to combine the 2 schools together into single grade configurations. And at that point, you would meet it in grades 1, 2, and 4, and just slightly be under in grades 3, 5, and 6.
Okay, so based on the latest requirements by the state, or proposed requirements by the state, is the board considering doing the consolidation of both school buildings into one? Since we are one district, I'm curious to know the board's position in considering that aspect.
Well, at this time, the board is continuing to look at what our grade configurations are and to look at what the state minimum class grades are. And we are trying to understand how the state is going to, how are they going to figure out what our enrollment is? Are they going to do it by average daily membership, or are they going to do it by enrollment? There is some key questions that we really need clear answers for before we can really dive into any major changes. But we are keeping this at the breast of what we're doing to really make sure that we are understanding where we stand and what type of populations we do indeed have in our buildings.
Okay, and to follow up on your answer, as part of the task force that was asked to make considerations for what we should be doing with our, I guess, our district, it appeared to me that there was quite a number of people that were willing to consolidate the 2 buildings, or school buildings, I guess, into one building. What has the board done to follow up on those considerations?
Well, we have definitely gone through that report, and it is something that we continually are understanding and trying to figure out what the best path is going to be. We need all the pieces of the equation.
Okay, and so tell me, give me a brief explanation of what those are. I'm interested to know.
Hold on, Keith. I have my board member, Robert, is going to speak.
I would like to clarify that it was not necessarily combining buildings. It was combining classes. There still are other models where we're combining classes.
You know, that's funny. That's funny that you bring that up. That was not my interpretation. It was kind of gray. You may be correct, but I'm not sure that that was the intention of the survey.
Oh, you know, I saw that there was a split. Some people seemed to, but were not explicit about it, to imply the combining of buildings, but others were just looking for combining of classes. So I'm saying that I'm certainly not discounting your suggestions that some people would like to see, you know, closure of a building, but I don't think it's universal.
Well, I'm not suggesting the closure. I'm curious as to what the board has done to follow up, to clarify and make a decision based on that survey. That survey definitely was gray. I don't disagree with you, but I want to know what the board is doing to find out what the true answer to that question was.
Survey gave us many suggestions for different aspects of our, we've made actionable steps for what we're going to do to address areas of the survey, so.
Okay, that's great. What are those actionable steps? I'm interested to hear them.
Well, there was actionable steps in terms of communication, so I don't know if you noticed that on Front Porch Forum, you now get board briefs. There were actionable steps in terms of reaching out to other members of the community. We're working on that. And with Act 73, in some ways our hands are tied in terms of pulling classrooms together until we know exactly what this could all be taken away from us. So it depends on what happens over the next couple months.
I guess then, so the task force that you had requested, what was accomplished? What was the purpose? Because it sounds as though you're saying that because of Act 73, that task force and what we were questioned to do basically didn't mean a thing.
Oh, I disagree. I think the task force was extremely valuable, and we continue to have items that we're working on from that task force and further discussions that will need to be had. At this point, there is certain aspects that we do need to wait for some additional information on, but we are very happy that we were able to get some community feedback as to what some of the general feelings were from our community, and that there was some different ideas and some different split opinions. So I thought that was very valuable.
Okay, but again, we went through this task force and we gave you some direction, and irrespective of what the Act 73 may be, it would be interesting to know what the board's position is with regard to the findings and the response of the task force, which I haven't seen anything to indicate that the board has even acknowledged what the task force has done.
That's not true. We had a whole meeting about the task force and the results of the survey, which was 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So if you went back and watched the video from 2 months ago, you'll see how that we went through the task force survey and the results, and we picked some actionable steps that we could address now, and others will have to hold off because of Act 73.
Okay, so if I review that, there will be some decisions made by the board.
There will be discussions. May I speak?
Yes.
Again,
Excuse me.
Hold on, Keith. Robert is speaking now.
I don't think that the report was entirely clear. There were opposing opinions. We took them into mind. I know for myself, I was surprised that there was a lot of entertaining of joining classes across the schools, which I was not aware of. And I think there's certainly, and as we progress and as we go through our planning, we are entertaining that. It's not, it has a lot of ramifications, but it certainly made a change in my mind. I think it made some changes in the direction of some of our curriculum, and which we have been we also addressed in the retreat. So these things, I don't see that other than the discussion we had, that the results of the survey were so clear that you could give a point-by-point response. But we certainly recognize the differing opinions from that survey and are taking them into account.
I guess the disappointment on my part was that there was an indication as being part of this task force that we were going to be able to present directly, face-to-face, to the board our positions and address questions that they may have. And to my knowledge, that never occurred. Am I missing something?
So Keith, the board took the written report and had a board retreat to review the report and came out with 6 next steps that they identified in regards to actionable steps to take. And then the follow-up meeting from that retreat was to assign board members to take the lead on those. And I'm happy to share out with you, which is also in a public document in my report, what those 6 actionable steps were.
Jamie, I would love to hear that because I was extremely disappointed with the end result of the task force and the board's position with regard to the recommendations that the task force spent time and effort to address on their, with regard to what we thought we were tasked with.
Yeah, no, and I'll copy Amy on that, and then feel free to email back and continue to join our meetings, but discussions around reconfiguration of the district is one of the actionable tasks. That was one of the things we said we were going to continue to discuss.
Okay, I appreciate your response, and I look forward to your email, and I will continue to monitor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, so our next meeting is Monday, January 5th, 2025.
326.
And I know, that's great.
Yes.
2026.
Well, like as if I start telling myself now, I'll
Yeah, okay.
get there.
I moved to adjourn.
And Stockbridge, great, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.